Have you ever just looked at a forest or a coral reef and wondered how it all works? It can seem so chaotic, but what if I told you it's not chaos at all? That it's actually running with the kind of precision you'd find in a finely tuned mechanical watch? Okay, let's dive into that idea and see how nature really is an intricate machine.
Okay, check this out. On the one hand, you've got this stunningly beautiful, complex coral reef, just buzzing with life. And on the other, the inner workings of a watch. I mean, at first glance, they seem like they're worlds apart, right? But the more you really look, you start to see it. That same mind-boggling intricacy. Every single piece, every fish, every bit of coral, just like every tiny gear and spring in that watch, has a specific job to do. And it's all deeply, deeply connected.
So let's get the official definition out of the way, just so we're all on the same page. An ecosystem is basically a system where living things, that's the biotic stuff, and non-living things, the abiotic stuff, all interact with each other. So we're not just talking about the plants and animals, we're also talking about the sunlight, the water, the soil, everything they depend on. These are the fundamental parts of our watch. And when every single one of those parts is humming along just right, that's when an ecosystem hits what we call equilibrium. It's the system's natural happy place, its steady state of balance. A healthy ecosystem is like a perfectly calibrated watch. It just keeps perfect time. Everything is ticking along in this really stable, predictable rhythm.
All right, so if we're calling it a watch, let's actually build it. Let's pop the back casing off and really look at all the individual pieces, starting with the living gears that make the whole thing go. This right here, this is basically the schematic for our nature watch. You can see how the energy that's coming from the sun, right? It powers the producers, which are basically the plants. Then that energy gets passed along to the consumers, the critters that eat the plants, and the critters that eat those critters. And then, when everything eventually dies, the decomposers step in. They break it all down, and boom, all those nutrients go right back into the system. It's this incredible, self-sustaining loop. So let's break down those living, or biotic parts a little more. Each one is like a totally different kind of gear. The producers are like the mainspring gear, the big one that captures all that initial energy. The consumers, they're the train of smaller gears that transfers that energy all through the system. And the decomposers, oh man, they are so important. They're the crucial little gears that clean everything up, making sure nothing is wasted and all the raw materials get recycled to be used again.
But hey, gears don't just spin by themselves, right? They need power, they need a casing to hold them. That's where the non-living, the abiotic parts come into play. Solar energy, that's the battery, the main power source. Then you've got the chemicals, water, nitrogen, CO2, those are the raw materials, the actual metal the gears are made of. And the physical environment, the soil, the air, the rocks, that's the casing itself, the thing that holds it all together.
And this is such a perfect example of how you just cannot separate the living gears from the non-living engine. Take the nitrogen cycle. You have all this nitrogen floating around in the atmosphere. That's abiotic, right? But most plants and animals can't use it like that. It's basically useless to them until living bacteria, biotic gears, grab it and fix it into a form they can use. Then it moves up the food chain. The living and non-living parts are completely intertwined. If one piece fails, the whole machine can grind to a halt. So this is what that beautiful balance, that equilibrium actually looks like in the wild. What you're seeing here is the population of lynx and snowshoe hares over a long, long time. It's this classic cycle. The number of hares goes up, which means more food for the lynx, so their numbers go up. But more lynx means more hares get eaten, so the hare population crashes. And with less food, the lynx population crashes too. It's this amazing, predictable rhythm. This is the steady tick-tock of a healthy ecosystem. Watch.
But what happens when something comes along and messes with that delicate balance? What happens when you throw a wrench right into the gears? And yeah, you guessed it. That wrench in the works, it's usually us. This quote from the source material really hits it home. Human impacts can just completely overwhelm an ecosystem's natural ability to handle stress. We can literally jam the gears so hard that the whole machine breaks down and shifts into a completely new and usually much, much worse state.
So when a system gets hit with one of these big disturbances, it's really the moment of truth, and we can measure how well it handles that stress in two really important ways, by looking at its resistance and its resilience.
All right, so let's get this straight, because it's super important. What's the difference? Well, think about our watch again. Resistance is if you bump the watch or shake it, but it keeps on ticking perfectly. It just withstands the shock.
Resilience, on the other hand, is what happens if you hit it so hard it actually stops. Resilience is how fast you can get it running again and keeping the right time. A really well-made system is going to have both.
And this graph just lays it all out perfectly. At that initial time point, both systems get hit with the exact same shock. Now just follow the green line. See how it dips? The performance drops, but then it bounces right back up to where it was. That system is resilient. But now, look at the red line. Whoa, it completely crashes and it never comes back. It's crossed a tipping point. The gears are broken. It's stuck in a new, worse state, and it can't get back.
So all of this really leads to a huge question about, well, about us. Where do we fit in? If these ecosystems are intricate watches, then who are we in this story? Because look, when one of these ecosystem watches breaks, it's not just some abstract scientific problem. It has very real, very serious consequences. A forest that loses its resilience doesn't just look a little sadder. It might stop cleaning our water, or preventing landslides, or being a home for the pollinators we need for our food. When the watch breaks, it doesn't just stop telling time, it stops doing all the essential jobs that we and everything else totally depend on.
Okay, so let's do a super quick rundown of the big ideas here. First, ecosystems are just like these incredible complex watches where everything is connected. Second, when they're healthy, they exist in this balanced state we call equilibrium. Third, when they get hit, their health is all about how well they can resist the damage and how quickly they can bounce back. That's resistance and resilience. And finally, and this is the big one, human impact is often the biggest wrench we can throw in the works.
Which really leaves us with one final big question to think about. We're the only species that can actually understand how this incredible natural watch works. We can study its gears, appreciate its precision, and we can see exactly what causes it to break. So the question we all have to answer for ourselves is this: are we going to be the careful watchmakers who keep it running, or are we going to be the ones who drop the wrench in the works?